ask me to sum up X-Men Origins Wolverine in one word, it would be eh. Mostly because you could hardly call it a legitimate origin film. While the movie does explain how Wolverine got the metal fused into his body and how he ends up losing his memory, it doesn't really show you anything else. We very briefly go over his childhood, the activating of his mutation, the fact that he fought in virtually every single US war in history. Yeah, that kind of would have been a cool thing to explore more, but hey, who cares? Let's have a totally pointless romantic subplot that we know will go nowhere. There's a lot to dissect and a lot to nitpick, so let's check out X-Men Origins Wolverine. Now, for those of you who are unaware of it, this was actually supposed to be the first of many origin films on different key X-Men. Magneto was going to get one, Gambit, hell, I'm pretty sure Nightcrawler was going to get an origin movie, and you can imagine how awesome that would be. But sadly, because this movie was panned by the critics and the fact that Magneto went through development hell, the idea was scrapped. So we're left with this movie that not only didn't end on a high note, but ended flat on its back. I'll say this though. The plot is pretty easy to keep track of. Wolverine and his brother Victor, aka Sabretooth, played by Leo Schreiber, get recruited by William Stryker to be part of a task force of mutants also known as Team X. Alongside them are Maverick, Kestrel, Blob, Agent Zero, and everyone's favorite letdown in this movie, Wade Wilson. After a couple of missions, Wolverine decides that he's the only redeemable person in the team and leaves when he realizes that they have no regard for the value of human life and just want to kill whoever they want. Half a decade goes by, and he's now a lumberjack with a live-in girlfriend when he's approached by Stryker warning him that the members of his ex-team, no pun intended, have been murdered and he could be next. Wolverine eventually finds out it was Victor who was behind the killings when he finds his girlfriend slashed to death. After losing a fight with Victor, Wolverine goes to Stryker for help, and that's when we see the adamantium layered onto his skeleton to beat Victor. During a very pointless scene where Wolverine fights Blob, it's revealed that Stryker and Victor have been working together to lure Wolverine back to Stryker to turn him into a mindless walking weapon, and that the facility that Logan got is upgraded and is also housing several captured mutants who are being experimented on. Wolverine then teams up with a mutant who escaped the facility named Remy LeBeau, who you probably know more as Gambit, played by Taylor Kitsch. When they get to the facility, we learn that Wolverine's girlfriend is alive and was actually working for Stryker to keep tabs on him because Stryker kidnapped her sister Emma. Emma being a mutant who can literally turn her whole body into diamond. She's up there with Colossus. How she got kidnapped, I have no idea. It's not like her body isn't made of one of the most strongest materials on the earth, and she couldn't have just throat punched Stryker and killed him when he came knocking, or punched through the wall of her cell and ran to Canada, saving her sister the hassle and Wolverine the heartbreak, but I digress. Anyway, the final showdown, if you can even call it that, it's so boring, is Wolverine and Victor, who two-timed Stryker because Stryker two-timed him first, going up against a mutant who took Wolverine's place as the kill puppet. And if you saw the movie, or even if you didn't, you know it's coming because people were so mad about it, you know who the replacement was. The worst adaptation of Deadpool ever. Yeah, apparently Stryker somehow fused a bunch of different powers with Wade's and turned him into a super mutant who has no red suit, no intense acrobatic charm, and who can't even make jokes because his mouth is sewn shut. He has laser eyes like Cyclops and has two giant swords that pop out of his arms like Wolverine. Funny, because the anatomy of that makes no sense, and the end of those blades would pop out every time Deadpool folded his arms, but I digress. Wolverine helps Wade be a little more headstrong. The captured mutants are saved by a Patrick Stewart cameo. Stryker shoots Wolverine in the head with an adamantium bullet that gives him amnesia instead of making him dead from the neck up, and pretty much everyone's story arc is set up for the original movie. Except, they're not. I think my biggest problem with this movie is that it's trying to be a good prequel and a faithful origin movie, but it just can't have both. The next time we see Sabretooth, Wolverine is knocking him off Lady Liberty. Why didn't Victor see him and say, hey, I know I look like the hand-me-downs from Teen Wolf, but I'm actually your brother? No, nothing at all. And what about Gambit? It looks like Gambit is the only friend Wolverine has by the end of the movie, so why don't they stick together? But I think my biggest thing is if Professor X knew the hostages were in trouble, why didn't he save Wolverine too? He knows pretty much everything. Did he just kind of tune Logan out so they could have a more elaborate meetup in the first X-Men movie? I mean, I'll give credit to some of the effects because they didn't look hokey all the time, and of course Hugh Jackman is a likable actor and an ideal choice for Wolverine, but this movie just has too many loose ends. And I hate to be like every other person who's been whining on the internet for the past 8 years, but why couldn't they have gotten Deadpool right? I mean, seriously, what was Fox thinking? But I digress. Even Hugh Jackman doesn't like this movie. He said somehow the first Wolverine movie ended up looking like the fourth X-Men. And it's true. It's just even more painfully underdeveloped and has even more to explain than it actually gives. If you like this movie, great, I'm happy for you, but I personally will always keep this towards the bottom of my list of good comic book films. And now for something to distract us from X-Men Origins the crap flick, Under Over. Award for most over-the-top acting goes to Kevin Durant's portrayal of Blob, who still plays his part better than he looks.
Oh, Jesus, Fred, you just met her last night.
I love her.
You love her after one night.
She's a gymnast.
Award for most underappreciated actor goes to Taylor Kitsch's portrayal of Gambit, who was such a perfect role for the Raging Cajun.
Those are mighty nice tags you have on there, sir. The men who took me wore tags just like them.
Award for the most over-the-top line goes to Kayla's history lesson on the moon.
Why is the moon so lonely?
Why?
Because she used to have a lover.
Yeah, I'm gonna use a meme for this one.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Award for most underappreciated line goes to Wolverine's rejection letter for the draft.
The country needs you. I'm Canadian.
And that was X-Men Origins Wolverine. Hope you guys liked this video. If you did, give it a like, comment on it, share, all that good stuff. And next week, I'll be starting back up again with another trailer on a Tuesday, and we'll be taking a look at the official prequel series, starting with X-Men First Class. Have a good one, everybody.